In this section, I'm going to talk about the profiles. So there are 6 profile numbers, which correspond with the 6 lines in the I Ching hexagrams. There can be 12 different profiles, and a profile is made up of an unconscious number and a conscious number. So you're going to have 2 numbers. It'll be a 3-5 or a 4-1, something like this. So my favorite way to create meaning and to understand new things as I'm learning them is to ask, how does this thing interact with conflict? With 1, its proper name is investigator. This is an energy that likes to dig into something, research, analyze, very much someone who is gathering information. So how a line 1 would interact with conflict is they're going to research the heck out of it. So if they're in a disagreement with their friend, the way that they're going to interact with that disagreement, keeping in mind again that I'm going for a caricature version of this person, less nuance than is generally there. So line 1 is going to research the topic that they're disagreeing on and then also research conflict, right? They're going to read a book similar to Crucial Conversations, something like that, to really and deeply understand and analyze from all sorts of angles the conflict that they are experiencing. Now, are they going to act on that? I don't know. So line 2 is the hermit, and there's an element of a natural genius here. Like, this is someone who tends to be very creative and very, very good, like very naturally good at something or some things, but wants to keep it to themselves, does not necessarily enjoy sharing that out with the world. But people are someone's going to get a whiff of your genius and be like, come here, come here, come here. Show everybody, look, watch them dance. This kind of energy. So the hermit, how they would deal with conflict is they're going to ghost you. You're going to have an argument with this person and you're never going to see them again. That's kind of a joke. But they will tend to move more towards being in their own space. And they're probably going to create something based on this conflict, and it's going to be beautiful and it's going to bring you to tears. Okay? But you'll never see it. So line 3 is referred to as the martyr. I've said what I need to say about this man's inflammatory language, but yes, line 3s are referred to as martyrs. And you know that meme that says, I'm tired of being God's strongest soldiers? Line 3s are truly that person, because line 3s are going to learn everything through trial and error. There is a built-in resilience to line 3s because there's just so much that you need to try and sample. You have to move through this experience in order to learn the thing you need to learn from it. There's also a really interesting connection here with manifesting generators, who, of all the aura types, I think are the most in need of being in the throes of an experience to crystallize whatever lesson is needed there. More on that later. So line 3s, how are we interacting with conflict? You're gonna shoot first and then shoot 3 more times and then ask questions. Yeah, that's our line 3s, right? You're gonna be like, okay, here are 3 different experiments of how this could go. Try them all and then collect the data afterwards. So for line 3s, there's an element of you're just gonna figure this out through the process. You're gonna move through life, a lot of life, conflicts included, right? Just saying, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this, but I am. And then you're going to take 1 step at a time and very much trial by fire energy. That's how you're gonna interact with all conflicts. Any disruption or contrast that you experience in your life is going to be, okay, don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'll figure it out. Every time. Line 4s are referred to as the opportunist. And these are people who are very social. Their success feels very linked to their networks. And not just network in a business perspective, but like truly, like it's going to be your relationships that impact your life more than any other variable, which you could say is true for most people regardless of their profile number. But for line 4, I think there's like an innate, what's that word? Draw to this, to like the network, and to most of your problems being solved and or created by the people that you're around. Line 4s, when they interact with a conflict, they're just gonna find someone to figure it out for them. Now, I don't know if it sounds like I'm salty towards the line 4s in my life. I'm not. And however, most line 4s that I've seen, when you interact with a problem, you're going to, a more generous reading of that would be that line 4s, when they're faced with conflict, they're going to lean on their community to find a solution. Okay. Line 5 is referred to as the heretic. This energy has a lot of practical wisdom, very much seen as a savior. Like people with 5 in their profile experience a lot of projections. Like people are projecting their desires onto you. People are projecting their fears onto you. You're going to experience a lot of projection if you have a line 5. And sometimes you can be viewed as a savior or you can be viewed as a villain. One of my mentors has a 5 in her profile, and she was saying how every time that she's like had an employee, it always starts with employees being like, please let me work for you. I want to work with you. I'm so like enamored with you. And then they start working with her, and within a year it like turns into hate. And it's not, she hasn't done anything different. Like she hasn't been any different from my time working with her. I don't think that she is a terrible boss or like bad at managing people. I really think it's like the 5 in her profile. How is a line 5 going to interact with conflict? This one is actually quite hard for me to describe, because the line 5 is going to receive conflicts that they don't even know they're a part of. Like the line 5 is just living their life, and then someone is coming up and being like, you screwed me over, or like, I believed in you to do this thing that you never promised, but I don't care because I thought you were going to do it. And so how is the line 5 interacting with that conflict? They're taking a level of distance and they're saying, this conflict, I've seen this in other places. Here's the sort of universal lesson that we can all take from this conflict. That's what I think line 5s are doing with conflict. Yeah, I think that they're going to see the lesson. They're not going to take it personally per se. And they're just going to see the lesson and be like, yeah, here's the universal truth that we can pull from this conflict. And finally, we're at line 6. So someone with a 6 in their profile, it is said that folks with a 6 spend the first phase of their life with 3 energy. So a repetition of what I've said before, right? You're going to experience some of that 3 energy. And then in the later phases of your life, that 6 becomes much more of a distanced place. So in the first phase, a 6th line is going to be much more inside of the action. And then in the later phases of their life, they've extracted the wisdom that they need from being inside of things and now are standing outside, sort of gifting that wisdom to others. The 6th line is referred to as the role model. I forgot to mention that. So how is a 6th line interacting with conflict? Well, if they're in the first phase of their life, then they're trial by fire, just like the 3rd line. But if they're in those later phases, again, caricature, right? They're dissociating. They're gone. They're like putting so much distance between them and the conflict that it becomes irrelevant almost. It just becomes a thing to observe. So they're not going to interact necessarily with the conflict. They're not getting, like, a 6th line is not in conflict with you. That's kind of their thing. I'm not in conflict with you. I'm watching you be in conflict. That's how 6 lines are going to react to problems in their life. All right. So that's my take on the profiles. I'm interested, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Do you feel attacked by some of the things I said? And the other aspects of my 101 series are going to be somewhere on the screen.